gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Face in your face. Face in your face.
Hey guys, it's Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Welcome to the live show. How's everyone doing tonight? Doing pretty good. Still dealing with a little bit of a cough, but besides that, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for joining me tonight. I know there's a couple other shows going on tonight, so I appreciate everybody who's joining me. So originally, like I said yesterday, Barb was supposed to join me. She's sick. She's in the chat though, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Barb, for joining us. We are going to reschedule our conversation for a later date when we're both feeling better. And Barb, I hope you feel better soon, because I know what's going on right now. Everybody's getting sick, with the flu and with whatever I have, because I know I didn't have the flu. It's going around, so I know a lot of people are getting sick, and I hope everybody gets better. This has been a brutal winter so far, and let's hope everybody can start feeling better in 2025, because it's not the best way to kick off 2025. So tonight, in this episode, I wanted to go back to the beginning of when in 2021, February 4th, 2021 to be exact, of when Sandra was discovered and what transpired that day. And I want to talk about some other parts after. So I'm going to be going through the Canton Police Department report. There's 8 reports. It's not a long report. I do want to warn you people, I'm not the best reader out loud. Growing up as a kid, I had anxiety of reading out loud, so this is a big thing for me to do. It's one thing to read a few comments here and there. Excuse me, opening my Mountain Dew. I grew up being like, I would get very anxious when I read out loud, so you have to bear with me. So excuse me, and then after we'll answer some questions. As I said, Barbara is right here in the chat. She'll be glad to answer your questions if you have any. And then at the end, after I go through the report, I will answer any questions you guys have. I do want to, at the beginning, say it. We do have some standouts coming out. There are 2 very important standouts for the Justice for Sandra Birchmore group. On February 1st, it is the 4-year anniversary of Sandra's murder. So we are doing a standout at Canton PD. So we welcome you all to come if you can. If you do come, please do not park in the church parking lot. We're not allowed to park there. And make sure you use the restroom before you come, because we're not allowed to use the police department's restroom anymore. So we welcome all. We want to get a good sized crowd there. This is the first year that 100% we are able to say that Sandra Birchmore was murdered on February 1st. Now, all of us who have been fighting for justice and all of her family and friends knew she was murdered on the 1st, but now we have documentation stating the fact that it's 100% that she was murdered on that night, which we all knew. But like I said, this is the first year that we're able to, oh my goodness, this stupid stink bug is back. I caught one and I let it out and I just looked up. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, stink bugs aside, this is the first year that we can, say, well, with 100% certainty that it was the first. So that will be at 1:00 at Canton Police Department on February 1st. And then on February 4th at the Moakley Courthouse in Boston is the first hearing for Matthew Farwell. And we will be there at 9:00 to do a standout before. And we welcome everybody who can come join us to please come. We would like a pretty decent crowd there to show, that there is a lot of support for Sandra. So if you can come to either of those days, please come. February 4th, just so you guys know, if you don't already know, federal cases are not televised, so you will not be able to watch the hearing. I'm trying to find out if they do Zoom. I don't believe they do Zoom, so you can listen, but I think I remember reading, they don't do that. They were doing that. They might have only done that during COVID, but I'll find that information out, but I don't believe that's the case, that you can even listen over Zoom. So on February 4th is also a big day because it's the 4-year anniversary of when Sandra was found in her apartment. So it's, like I said, those 2 dates are very big when it comes to Sandra's murder. So we want to show a good showing at the courthouse, to, stand behind her family and friends, to let them know that the public is behind them. So it'd be great if you're available, if you can come. So I am gonna bring up the let me bring it up. Actually, no, go back to that. So this is the Canton Police Department report. Let me keep it like that. No, I'm gonna do this. Sorry, just trying to decide which way I like it better. It's the Canton Police Department report. There are 8 separate reports. There were 5 responding police officer. Wait, so there was 6. Sorry, I think there are 8 pages, but each police officer except one of them wrote a report. Officer Brady did not write a report, and I don't know why, or I don't have the report for him. So the first officer we're going to start with is Charles Yeaton. He's a patrolman, and I believe he was also an SRO officer at one point. So on February 4th, 2021, at approximately 11 a.m., I was dispatched to Windsor Woods Way to assist members of Canton Police Family Services Unit on a well-being check requested by another agency, the Sharon Police. Now, what happened before that, Sandra's work was concerned because Sandra hadn't shown up to the police department in a few days. And so Sandra hadn't shown up to work for a few days, and they were concerned because, the night of Sandra's death, actually they got sent home from work early because it was snowing, and there was a nor'easter that night, and it snowed from the 1st into the 2nd. And excuse me. And so on the 3rd is when they technically went back into the building, and people were concerned. People were wondering where she was, but they, there was just a major snowstorm, so But by the 4th, people were really concerned because she hadn't shown up to work in a few days. So, excuse me, I apologize. I'll probably be coughing throughout because I'm still having coughing. So on the 4th, the Sharon school that Sandra worked at, told the SRO officer that Sandra hadn't shown up for a few days, and that SRO officer was the one who put out the alert to ask for a wellness check for Sandra. At first, there was some confusion because they thought she still lived in Stoughton, but they figured out that she lived in Canton. And so that is when the call went to go do a wellness check. It was great. I was greeted in the lobby entrance by Officer Mike Brady and Officer Ensley Cotard, or at least that's how I pronounce it, as well as property manager Aaron Porter, who provided the key for us to gain entrance to 3307. I don't know why I read it like that. Windsor Way, Canton. The call originated from a well-being check from Sharon Public Schools, and they contacted Sharon Officer Mike Hockey as a teacher. Sandra Birchmore has not shown up for work or called in sick for several days. To go along with that, myself and Barb interviewed, I don't want to give away too much, but somebody who worked at Sandra's school, and they were very concerned because she didn't call there were for a few days, so they were very concerned of what was going on with Sandra. Like I said, at first it was a huge snowstorm, so Canton got about a foot of snow. So they at first they were kind of like, was she just stuck or what? And then Mary, no, this one, it's not a vigil. It's more of a rally / standout. There are going to be a few speakers, and we might do like a moment of silence there for Sandra before we head out. But this is more of a rally. I mean, technically, it starts getting dark around 3:30, but we're not going to do it. We're not going to do candles or anything. I don't think that the Canton Police Department would want us standing out there with candles. I mean, if I had flameless candles, that would be different. They probably wouldn't mind. But yeah, it's just going to be the standout, and there are going to be some speakers. So thank you for that question. What was I saying? So we spoke to this person at her school, and they were very concerned of why Sandra wasn't there. They knew how much she liked being there, and that they knew how much she liked being there. So they were very concerned at why she wasn't there. The call originated from a well-being check from I already read that part. Okay. Officer Cotard and I entered the dwelling and observed 2 cats in the apartment and noticed the conditions were cluttered and unkept. And noticed the bedroom door was closed. Officer Cotard opened the door, and we observed a young female in a seated position on the floor with a scarf around her neck and tightly affixed to the door handle. Due to discoloration in the skin, blue, and lividity, it appeared that the female had been there for a long period of time. Sergeant Mike Blank, shift supervisor, radioed to secure the scene immediately while en route to the resident. Sergeant Lank directed us to secure the scene in Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. CPAC was notified and advised that they would be responding to the residents. So a lot of you know that CPAC comes because, the Massachusetts State Police CPAC unit comes because Canton Police Department does not handle unattended deaths or deaths. So that unit has to come in and investigate. Now, I want you to remember this part. Scarf around her neck. That's something that's very crucial for, I'm sorry. Sergeant Lank and Detective Jonathan McCourt arrived short time later, and Officer Brady, Officer Cotard, and I stayed outside the apartment, and Sergeant Lank and Detective McCourt entered. My brain was thinking McCourty from the McCourty twins from the Patriots. Detective McCourt entered the apartment in an attempt to gather information and proper identification of the victim. Sergeant Lank requested Canton Fire EMS to respond to the location. Firefighter paramedic Daniel Whitley arrived. Does anybody recognize that name who watched the Karen Reed trial? Yeah, same guy. If you don't remember him, he was kind of the catty paramedic that was one of the paramedics that took Karen to the police station, to the hospital, to section her. Daniel Whitley arrived and pronounced Sandra Birchmore deceased at 11:46 a.m. No life-saving measures were taken at this time. Now, I find that sentence odd because unless he called in and spoke to a doctor, and a doctor is the one who pronounced her over the phone, he doesn't have the authority to pronounce somebody dead. So I find it odd, that sentence. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see the little thing to move it. Trooper Mike Dunn from Norfolk County District Attorney's Office arrived on the scene, as well as Trooper Zach Clark from the Crime Scene Services to process and photograph the scene. I believe Trooper Clark was a rookie, if I remember correctly. I think it might be in another report that it says that. At 12:44 p.m., I received a call from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Office of the Medical Examiner and spoke with intake specialist Mercedes Robertson. And after gathering pertinent information, the ME's office accepted jurisdictions and will be responding. And then the case numbers provide. This is going to be annoying. Trooper Dunn requested next of kin to be contacted and responded to the residents for questioning. Stoughton Police Department notified and assisted with making contact. Darlene Smith, who is the aunt of the deceased, was not home when Stoughton attempted notification. She contacted the police, Canton Police, moments later by phone, and was notified of the deceased by Officer Nix. Smith was currently in New Hampshire and unable to respond to the scene. Her contact information was provided to Trooper Dunn. Now let's get into Officer Nix. Let me bring my face back up so I can talk about this one. Now, if you haven't heard there is a recording of the call, because whenever you call the Canton Police Department, the call is recorded. And excuse me, that call was leaked, and I will not play that on my show. I have heard it a few times. It is horrendous. No family member should find out in the way Officer Nix told Darlene. There is no need for how he told Darlene that her niece was dead. It is unacceptable how he told her. I'll give you the gist of what he said. She called and he said, "Oh yeah, your niece Sandra Birchmore's dead. She killed herself by suicide." Bluntly like that, and I'm not exaggerating. He was. There's a few choice words I want to use, but I'm not going to use them right now. He was so insensitive, and he's a thunder. See you next Tuesday. Let's just say that. Let's just let me say it in the nicest way I can. He spoke to Darlene is unacceptable, and no family member should ever find out the way she did. Hi, Dana. How's it going? It's unacceptable. And that's something that they need to fix, because no family member should ever find out the way she did. He was very callous and unkind, and it's not right how she found out. He was very, very blunt and cold to her. And, that's all of the phone call I really want to get into, because it gets me angered, and I don't want to get worked up. Sergeant Lank was able to access video footage with the assistance of the property manager. The victim was last seen on camera in the building on Sunday, January 31st, 2001 at 4:41 p.m. That is wrong, because she was seen last on video on the 1st. So I don't know if he meant to say January 1st, but it wasn't January 31st she was last seen. Okay, and then this is Detective McCourt, who is no longer, actually, Officer Yeaton is no longer with Canton Police Department, and neither is Detective Jonathan McCourt. On February 4th, 2021, approximately 11:09 a.m., I responded to 3307 Windsor Woods for a well-being check of a female party, later identified as Birchmore Sandra. Upon arrival, I spoke with the first responding officers on the scene. Officer Yeaton Officer Cotard and Officer Brady. I was informed the party was deceased and had hanged herself. I had the officers wait outside the apartment as I made entry. Birchmore was located in the bedroom in a seated position on the floor with a dark-colored strap around her neck. Now, do you remember what Officer Yeaton said? Oops. Sorry, I didn't put it up on the screen. Do you guys remember what Officer Yeaton said? Can anybody tell me? He said it was a scarf. And Detective McCourt is now saying it's a strap. The strap was tied to the door handle of the bedroom closet, and then it is blacked out. Obvious signs of levity had set in Birchmore's face, hands, and abdominal area. There was no visible trauma to the head or defensive abrasions on the hands. Now, I find this funny because when you read the FBI affidavit, that is incorrect. Sandra had abrasions on her nose. That usually is an indication of somebody being smothered of some sort. So I don't know how, but that shows that she had, her nose was scraping against something. The bedroom, along with the apartment, was unorganized and unkept. No signs of a struggle were observed in the bedroom or apartment. I hate this thing. On the kitchen counter of the apartment, and it's all redacted, I later found out that number 6, right here, number 6 is there was a restraining order against a young man who somebody from my team spoke to, and it's somebody that she dated, that there were some issues, but it wasn't. I've talked to a few people that some of the issues were he was cleared. He was cleared because it was Matthew Farwell. So he had nothing to do with this, what happened to Sandra. Number 7, Sergeant Lank arrived shortly after my arrival. Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, CPAC, the medical examiner's office, and Canton Fire all were notified. Trooper Matt Dunn, one of my favorites, and Trooper Kevin Tufts arrived from CPAC, Massachusetts State Police crime scene, was present as well. That is what was his name? I forget. He's named later in the report. I'll figure it out. Canton Fire Department, Whitley, arrived on the scene and pronounced Birchmore deceased. Firefighter Whitley informed me that he believes Birchmore was deceased for a few days. Again, he's not a doctor, so he can't technically pronounce her deceased. Um, Trooper Matt Dunn and Trooper Kevin Tufts arrived, scene and present, as well as processed Massachusetts State Police crime scene was present as well. Troopers processed and photographed the scene. Troopers located additional redacted once on scene. Once the troopers were finished processing the scene, Chris Adams and Caitlin Bulger from the medical examiner's office took custody of the body. After the body was removed and CPAC and the medical examiner's office cleared, I located additional in the bedroom. It's redacted in the bedroom closet in a cupboard. And I believe he's talking about medication. And that's all redacted. As you can see, there's a big space right there. Prior to clearing the scene, Officer Brady and I had animal control take custody of the 2 cats in the apartment. Officer Brady locked the door once we cleared. On February 6th, 2021, I spoke with Sergeant Lank about additional information he had learned from property manager Erin Porter. See Sergeant Lank supplement report. The information was passed on to Trooper Tufts by telephone. In speaking to Trooper Tufts, he requested that he would like the video from Canton Woods. At approximately 1 p.m., Sergeant Lank, Detective Albert, yes, that is Kevin Albert. That is, I believe, his only part of this as far as we know, only part in this case. And I went to Canton Woods to assist the state police in obtaining the video from Birchmore's apartment building. We were met at the leasing office by Trooper Dunn and Trooper Tufts. Maintenance Supervisor Carlos Vermicio assisted us in reviewing the video footage. The video of Building 3 is motion activated. It only captures the lobby. Yeah, I've been in that building, and that's the only place there is video in, which is kind of disturbing, but I get it. You know, people don't want to have to deal with being on camera all the time when they're coming and going from their apartment. But it would have been nice if there were video cameras in the hallway upstairs where her apartment was. So they could have caught him coming out of her apartment. But unfortunately, they are not there. This thing. What are you doing? Okay. I'm going to have to find a better way to do this because Birchmore was last seen on video at 1746 hours on Monday, February 1st. Investigator note, Trooper Tufts and Colleen Crawford from the Norfolk DA's office took custody of the video hard drive from Building 3. The camera's video time and actual times we believe are 13 minutes off. While we were reviewing video, Carlos informed me of informed me that he recognized everyone on the video that entered the lobby on Monday except one individual. The individual Carlos did not recognize enters at approximately 2100 in 27 minutes. The individual is a tall, burly man. The individual is wearing work boots, jeans, black jacket, and a black hood on his head. The individual is wearing a black mask, in parentheses, COVID. The party is not wearing gloves and appears to be white. Oh, I hate this thing. I'm going to have to learn how to do this better because it's a pain in the butt. The individual exits the building. Hold on. Sorry, just trying to make the page bigger. And we've seen the video of him coming in and out. I'll bring it up and play it for you guys again. Does anybody have any questions up till now? I know Barbara's in the chat, so she can answer some of the questions that people might have, but I'm not sure if there's anything that I can answer from anybody. Okay. Oh, I can see it better. Okay. Carlos reiterated that he did not know who that was. Carlos also informed me that that his worker, Sturgeon Michael, saw that party before with Birchmore. I spoke to Sturgeon. Michael informed me that the individual on camera looked like the guy who helped Birchmore move into the apartment. Sturgeon said that Birchmore moved in sometime in December. Sturgeon was not 100%, but Sturgeon was assuming was unsure of the exact date. Investigators notes. It was later learned that from Sturgeon that he saw the individual the same day police responded to the apartment 3214. I ran an in-house check of 3214 and located the disturbance on December 1st, 2021. Now, that shows how short of a time Sandra actually lived in this location. She was only there for a few months. She moved in about December 1st, and she was murdered on February 1st. That's only 2 months that she lived in that apartment. 2 months to the day, which is very eerie when you think about it. My cough drop is like making my lips sticky. So yeah, she only lived in that apartment. She was only a Canton resident for 2 months. And that apartment is so close to the border of Stoughton. Like, it's so close. When you come to the apartment, I believe it's to the right. There's a sign that says, "Welcome to Stoughton, welcome to Canton." So it's like, it's so close to the border. And sadly, she only lived there for 2 months. It should be also noted that Carlos informed us that Birchmore only had one key fob to enter the building. Carlos was going to email Birchmore's key fob activity to the state police. After reviewing the video, Detective Albert, Sergeant Lank, and I accompanied Trooper Dunn and Trooper Sergeant Fanning. Oops. Sorry, I forgot to put the thing back up. Let me say that again. Trooper Sergeant Fanning, who arrived on the scene, my favorite, to apartment 3307. As a follow-up of the scene, Assistant Property Manager Faraday Kathleen provided us with the key to the apartment. Once inside, Trooper Sergeant Fanning and Trooper Dunn took custody of written material located in the apartment. Also, the key fob to her apartment was located on the key resting on the box inside the apartment. The apartment was locked once cleared. So that was Detective McCourt. And as I said, McCourt is no longer a police officer. Someone told me he might work at DPW in Canton, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So don't quote me. But I have something to say after I go through all of these about information that I got about a year ago concerning some of these officers, but I want to get through the reports first. Does anybody have any questions before I go on to the next report, Cotard's report? Barb, is it moved? I moved to another state and almost put my son in Explorers program when I came back to Mass. A policeman. Oh, wow. Yeah, Mary, I'm glad you didn't put him in the program. The program wasn't bad for every child. I've spoken to a few parents that their children went through the program, but that's what happens when a child is groomed. Not every child that is part of it is groomed or harmed. They select a few. What does it say? Allegedly LB. Mizzy, Medfield SRO supposedly has connections with Farwell and Sandra. If you have any information, if you're on Facebook on the Justice page, you can message me that information, or you can, if you're on X, you can message me under either the Sandra Birchmore account or under my Mizzy account. I'd love to hear more information on that. Barb, the problem with the Explorers program in Stoughton in particular is that it appears they don't recertify each year, and was required to by BSA. Yeah, that's the problem, is they didn't even follow the contract that they were supposed to be following with the Boy Scouts of America. There's a contract and what they're supposed to abide by that they didn't follow. And, that's part of the problem, a part of the oversight problem with Stoughton, oops. Robert Devine, Barbara, Robert Devine changed the whole program when he took over, making it more military like. Yeah, it turned into like a paramilitary type deal group. Robert Devine was a drill instructor for I forget which part of the military. Anyway, he was a drill instructor, so that he did what he knew. And there, like I said, I've spoke to some students, some parents of students, and they had, some of them had good experiences and some didn't. I had one mom tell me that her son, who wanted to be in law enforcement, and ended up quitting 2 weeks later because of the way they treated the boys. And I had another mom tell me both two of her children went through the program, and Devine was very good to her kids. And he even was trying to get her son to come back because trying to motivate him. So, but that makes it even worse because I'm glad other children, it wasn't like every child that went through the program that was being hurt, but that means that they honed in on certain children that they thought that they could take advantage of. And that's where Sandra came in. And, I would like to know the other people who were affected by this. What happened to Sandra should never happen again. And because they were left to their, he was allowed to move up in the Stoughton Police Department wholeheartedly. And he was one heartbeat away from becoming the chief of police in Stoughton. That's fucking scary. He went unchecked, and that's horrific and scary. And the residents of Stoughton should be horrified that he got that close to being their police chief, because he was next man up. Things could be very, very different right now if he became police chief. And I'm just glad he got caught with his in his other scandal. So on this is from Officer Ensley Cotard. He's a patrolman. On Thursday, February 6, 2021, Officer Cotard, was working in capacity of the school resource officer, Heron referred to SRO, at Canton High School. At approximately 9:45, I was contacted directly via cell phone from Sharon Police Officer Michael Hockey, SRO officer of Sharon Public Schools. He requested my assistance on performing a well-being check at a female staff member of Sharon Public Schools who has not been arriving to work or seen / heard from in several days. Officer Hockey advised me that Sandra Birchmore, or Birchmore Sandra Marie, works as an instructional assistant at East Middle School in Sharon, and the school administration contacted him because Miss Birchmore has not come to work in days, is not responding when they tried to contact her, and they could not get in touch with the emergency contact that they had on file. The last known address that Officer Hockey had for Miss Birchmore was 3 Windsor Woods, Lane in Canton Woods Apartments. Knowing that this place was a large apartment condo complex, I asked Officer Hockey if there was a specific known apartment for Miss Birchmore, and he responded in the negative. This was all the information Officer Hockey was able to provide me. About Miss Birchmore. At this time, I advised Officer Hockey that I would go to Canton Woods leasing office and attempt to verify Miss Birchmore's is in fact a resident. I confirmed I would conduct a well-being check on the residents. If confirmed, sorry. With this information, I contacted Sergeant Lank and advised him of the information I received and that I would be responding to Canton Woods. At approximately 10:45, assisting SRO Brady and I spoke with Canton Woods property manager Porter Aaron and confirmed that Miss Birchmore is a resident in the apartments 3307. We asked Miss Porter if she had seen or spoken with Miss Birchmore recently, and she advised us that she had not seen or heard from her in several days. Miss Porter did advise us that she was told by someone within the building that, redacted, asked Miss Porter if she could try to contact Miss Birchmore with the contact number that she had on file for her. Miss Porter attempted 2 times to contact Miss Birchmore's cell phone, but she advised us that the cell was going directly to voicemail. I advised Miss Porter that we would attempt to make contact with Miss Birchmore at her apartment. At approximately 11 a.m., SOR Brady and I knocked and announced our presence on the door of Miss Birchmore for several minutes, but did not receive a response at this time. I contacted Sergeant Lank and advised him of the current situation. Sergeant Lank stated that we should try to locate her vehicle in the parking lot, and if located, then we will make entry into the apartment. Sergeant Lank advised us to look for vehicle MARG1 at Massachusetts Register, I guess, 1YGB66, 2019 Chevy Cruze sedan, color blue. I located the vehicle outside of Building 3 and radioed to dispatch that I located the vehicle. Officer Brady and I visually inspected the vehicle and noticed that there was snow still on and around the vehicle that appeared undisturbed. The reader should note that the last time it snowed was Monday, February 1st, 2021, into Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. We also noticed her Sharon Peace Public Schools identification card hanging from the rearview mirror with her name and picture on it. I requested a uniformed officer to the scene and was able to obtain keys for the apartment from Miss Porter. A short time later, Officer Yeaton arrived on the scene, and we all made our way back to Miss Birchmore's apartment, 3307. Again, I knocked and announced our presence at the door several times with no response. With the key, all officers on the scene made entry into the apartment and immediately noticed that the apartment was disheveled. and unkept, with 2 house cats running around the apartment when we made entry. I first entered the bathroom, bathroom door lights off, and rendered that area safe. I entered the bedroom of the apartment. I opened the closed door, lights off, and noticed Miss Birchmore seated on the floor with some sort of belt / lanyard, string / rope tightly tied around her neck that was secured to the door handle of the bedroom closet. Deceased. Now, if you guys remember, Officer Yeaton said it was a scarf. Detective McCourt said it was a strap. And Officer Cotard just said it was, let me go back to it. It was a belt, lanyard, string, rope. Which was it? At this time, Officer Yeaton contacted the Canton Police Station and advised them of our discovery. After discovering the body, we were advised by Sergeant Lank and Detective McCourt to exit the apartment and secure the scene for processing. He also requested that the medical examiner's office, the Massachusetts State Police CPAC, and crime scene services to respond to the scene. Sergeant Lank and Detective McCourt arrived on the scene and made entrance into the apartment. Sorry. A short time later, Trooper Kevin Tufts, Trooper Dunn, and Kevin Clark, I believe, was a rookie, arrived on scene to begin processing. I cleared from the scene a short time later. I contacted Officer Hockey via cell phone to advise him of our discovery. He stated that he would pass the information along to the school administration once I confirmed with him the next of kin had been notified. He advised me that Miss Birchmore was also at one point a staff member / teacher with Stoughton Public Schools, and that he contacted the Officer Shaheen Isabel, SRO, Stoughton Public School Office, Stoughton Public Schools, about Miss Birchmore earlier for contact information before contacting me. I advised him I would reach out to her for information. I contacted and spoke with Officer Isabel via cell phone and advised her of the situation. She advised me that she was very familiar with Miss Birchmore and shared with me that she was a former graduate and employee of Stoughton High School. Redacted. She stated that the Stoughton patrol officers had responded to previous address blank Ave Stoughton, and then it's redacted. Officer Isabel stated that Miss Birchmore, again redacted. She also advised me that Miss Birchmore's mother and grandmother recently passed away, and that her aunt Smith Darlene would be a good person to contact for next of kin. I thanked her for that information and advised her that I would contact her, Miss Birchmore's next of kin, to notify her so she could notify Stoughton Public School administration of the matter. At this time, this case / investigation remains open, and the report will be kept on file at the Canton Police Department. What? Oh no. Oh. I have to send myself the next report because I guess I thought Lank's report was in with that one, but I guess it's not. Oh, pain in the butt. Give me 1 second. I apologize for that because I thought all those reports were together. Um, um, so do you guys notice anything from those four officers? No, 3 officers. You know, Officer Yeaton said it was a scarf. Officer Detective McCourt said it was a strap, and Ensley Cotard said it was a strap, lanyard, or a string or rope. I don't know. I find that really suspicious that, that's what they put it as. I find it a little crazy that, none of these officers could say what it was that she did this to herself with. It's, to me, that's one of the biggest, that's the worst part of these not the worst part of these reports, but one of the things that I find crazy, that 3 officers can't fully agree with what, from the get-go, that she supposedly did this to herself with. And when I saw these reports, that that just reiterated my suspicion with this case, because I was like, there's something not right with this. That why can't these officers agree? I mean, like, there were 5 officers, there's 4 reports. Why can't all 5 officers agree with what it was? We later find out from the the FBI report affidavit that it was a black strap, and it was from an army gym bag that was in her apartment. But to me, it's not acceptable that these officers couldn't agree with what excuse me, what she supposedly did this with, what the ligature was supposedly, tied with. And this is Sergeant Michael Lank. On 2/4/21, let me get back. Okay. On 2/4/21, I was working as the patrol sergeant for the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. At approximately 10 a.m., I was notified by SR officer Cotard that he was going to be conducting a well-being check on a party at 3307 Windsor Woods Way. The party in question, Birchmore Sandra, had not shown up for work at East Middle School for several days without notifying anybody at the school. Officer Cotard, Officer Brady, and Officer Yeaton responded to 3307 Windsor Woods Way in an effort to make contact with Birchmore. Once on scene, Officer Cotard notified me that nobody was answering the door. Officer Cotard was then able to locate the subject's vehicle in the parking lot. The vehicle was covered in snow and appeared to not have been moved since the snowfall on Monday, 2/3/21, which is incorrect. That date is incorrect. It is 2/1/2021, February 1st, 2021. That was another reason why I felt things were fishy, because there are some dates wrong in this report. Being unable to reach anybody at the apartment, officers on the scene were able to make contact with the property manager, Erin Porter, who provided them with a key to access the apartment for a well-being check. Upon entering the apartment, Officer Cotard located Birchmore in the bedroom, deceased, with a black strap around her neck, which was tied to the bedroom closet door. At this point, the scene was secured, and Officer Yeaton requested my response to the scene with Detective McCourt. While waiting for CPAC unit to arrive, I went to the rental office and met with the property manager, Erin Porter, and maintenance supervisor, Carlos Burismo. Burismo was able to access the video camera system, which only captured the interior entrance of Building 3, which was the residence of the deceased. The video is motion activated and captures people entering, exiting, or any other motion in the lobby, the front lobby. While observing the footage, I observed Birchmore's activity in the following order. February 2nd, 2021, Sunday leaves building at 9:51 a.m. on the telephone. Sunday returns to building at 10:08 a.m. carrying a large box containing a baby car seat. Sunday leaves at 10:11 a.m. Sunday returns to the building at 1:15 with 2 pizza boxes and talking on telephone. Sunday leaves at 4:39 p.m. Sunday returns to the building 4:41, texting on the phone. So as you can see from that, Sandra is always on her phone, whether it be talking or texting or Snapchatting. Sandra was always on her phone. And that's one of the things that I found suspicious, that, this young 23-year-old woman who is constantly on her phone ceased to have any movement on her phone after Matthew Farwell left. There was no movement on her phone. And, for somebody who was always on her phone, that didn't smell right to me. It was later informed by Verissimo that Birchmore is captured again on camera leaving the building on Monday, and she returns at 5:46 p.m. holding a snow brush. This was the last time that Birchmore was seen on video. While reviewing the video, Porter was able to obtain Birchmore's file and locate the emergency contact Darlene Smith, who is the aunt of the deceased. Upon reviewing the apartment, I met with Trooper Dunn and Tufts from the State Police CPAC unit. I advised them of all the information that we had obtained thus far. The scene was processed and photographed by the CPAC unit. The medical examiner's office was contacted and responded to the scene to take custody of the body. It was at this time that Officer Nix was able to get in contact with Darlene, who was currently in Raymond, New Hampshire. Officer Nix advised her that Birchmore had been found deceased. No, he didn't advise her of that. He was rude and obnoxious, and it's unacceptable how he told Darlene. Miss Smith told Officer Nix that this didn't make any sense to her, and went on to tell him that it's redacted, but I believe it said that she's pregnant and very happy about it. She was unable to respond to the scene as she was out of state. Thursday evening, I was contacted via email by Erin Porter, who was the property manager of Windsor Woods. She stated that she had seen somebody enter the building on video footage that she believed was Alexander Sternstrom, who is a friend of Sandra Birchmore, a friend of Birchmore. Sternstrom had applied for housing a few weeks back with the recommendation of Birchmore. She said she was not positive due to the face covering, but she wanted to bring it to our attention. I advised her that we would look into the matter when we were able to access the footage again. And we all know that that was not Alexander. It was actually Matthew Farwell. On Saturday, 2/6/21, I returned to work as the patrol sergeant on the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. Once at work, I notified, and actually this is the wrong, no, it's the right date. I'm sorry. Once at work, I noticed another email that I had received from Porter stating that she had a concerned phone call on Friday around 9 p.m. and would like to speak to me about it. I contacted Porter immediately. She told me that she received a call last night on their emergency line from a party named Tina. She said that Tina was very upset and was making statements about Birchmore. She stated that Birchmore had been dating a police officer and that it's redacted. She told Porter that the police officer, redacted, told Birchmore, and it's redacted, he would take care of it himself. I believe what's being said there is that he wanted Sandra to have an abortion, to get rid of the baby, and if she didn't get rid of it, he would take care of it himself. Porter advised her that she should be speaking to the police and not to her. Detective McCourt provided Trooper Tufts with all of this information, as well as the contact information for Porter and Tina. At approximately 1 p.m., I returned to Windsor Woods with Detective Albert and McCourt. Verissimo had agreed to meet us there and review more video from Building 3. We were met at the leasing office by Trooper Dunn and Tufts. That's weird. He didn't say anything about Trooper Fanning, because didn't unless Fanning pops up later. That's weird. Anyway, while the video footage was being reviewed, I spoke with the office leasing manager, Faraday Kathleen. I told Faraday that it had been brought to my attention that she had spoken to Birchmore in recent weeks before her death. She acknowledged that she had spoken to her on a couple different occasions and agreed to speak with me about it. She said that she spoke with Birchmore about 4 weeks ago, and this is when she first learned that Birchmore was pregnant. Birchmore told her that it's redacted and that she seemed nervous about it. She told Faraday that it's redacted was a police officer. I would assume the redaction says the father was a police officer. She was unhappy about and he was not happy that I believe it's redacted, but I think it says pregnant, and did not want, it's redacted, I believe it says her to have the baby. Birchmore never told her where or in what capacity it's redacted worked as a police officer. Birchmore went on to say that the two had broken up and were no longer together. At the time of the conversation, Faraday believed that Birchmore was approximately, and it's redacted. The next time Faraday recalls talking to Birchmore was approximately 3 weeks ago. During this conversation, Faraday states that Birchmore seemed to be happier and joked with Faraday about anticipating multiple packages to be delivered to be delivered in the coming weeks. As she redacted, she also stated that once I assume it says baby, she was hoping to move into a bigger unit with Windsor Woods. Faraday told me that all the packages that are delivered by carrier come to the leasing office and they send a message to the tenant. She told me that she had a record of Birchmore's recent deliveries. She picked up 2 packages on 1/30/2021. Excuse me. 3 packages from Kohl's that were delivered last week, but that had not been, picked up yet. There was 1 package that had just arrived, on 2/6/2021 from Kohl's. The packages were small, and based on what Faraday had told me, it's redacted. Excuse me, I just need to get my cough drop. I did not open the packages, but brought it to the attention of Trooper Dunn and Trooper Tufts. Sorry, I just need some water. Excuse me. After speaking with Faraday, I returned to the apartment 3307 with Canton detectives Albert and McCourt. We were accompanied by Trooper Dunn, Tufts, and Sergeant Fanning from the Massachusetts State Police. Once inside the apartment, my attention was brought to the large box containing, it's redacted, excuse me, this was the same box that I observed Birchmore carrying into the building on Saturday. Oh, on Saturday, I observed the shipping label and the box on the box and noticed that the package had been delivered to Raymond, New Hampshire, excuse me, which was the current address for Birchmore's aunt, Darlene Smith. The apartment was further processed by the officers on the scene. Excuse me, I apologize. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. I have like a dry spot in the back of my throat. Excuse me. Pat Sanford. Sandra's life was over, unfortunately, when Farwell first began abusing her. She was forever changed after that, and think how that would mess with your head as a teen. A cop! Exclamation point. I said that exact thing last night, or yesterday, I should say, on my live, that sadly, I think the minute that he began, physically abusing Sandra, once it went past the grooming and went into more of a physical, that's where it was Sandra's undoing, because he was always going to be afraid that she was a witness in her case. She was always afraid of that. And he was always afraid that she had something on him, and he's a very sick person, so he knew that she would always have something on him. So, okay. The apartment was further processed by the officers on the scene. And that's it. That's the end of the report. So that's the Canton reports. My biggest issue is one, how Officer Nix spoke to Darlene. No family member should ever find out about their family member being dead the way Darlene found out. He's a scumbag for what he did to her. And excuse me, the fact that the 4 officers in their 4 different reports didn't know, like none of them kind of agreed on what Sandra, hung herself with, what allegedly she hung herself with. I'm talking about where these guys were coming from that night. And if you notice from the reports, from right from the get-go, they were saying that it was a suicide. And I mean, Officer Nick said right from the beginning that it was a suicide. And you know, that's without investigating. They shouldn't be saying right from the get-go that it's suicide. They need to investigate it because they don't know. And like I told Trooper Fanning, he was a police officer. He was a detective. He would know how to cover up a scene and make it look like it was, like it was a suicide. And that's exactly what he did. And the fact that they, from the get-go, was saying that it was that is, was it, I was thinking about this today. I was like, did the Canton Police Department know who Sandra was when they entered that apartment? Rumors go around, Canton isn't a big town. Stoughton isn't a big town. Police officers talk. The Canton police have to, they know a lot of police officers from Stoughton, especially because they go to the Stoughton Police Court, the Stoughton District Court. So it makes you wonder if they knew who she was when they walked into that building. And, from this is me speculating and just asking questions, from reading the reports, and we'll get into the Stoughton internal report at some point, but from reading that report, the more I read it, the more I felt like that Sandra was being trafficked, especially by William Farwell. And if that's the case, who else was he introducing her to? Because we know he introduced her to a military recruiter. Who else was he introducing her to? That's a good question. A question I would love to be answered. So, exactly. That's one of the things I want to talk about. Yep. Barb, scarf, belt, rope, or strap, or scarf, scarf, belt, rope, strap, or string. It was a strap, but why didn't all the officers agree that was the case? And yes, they never mentioned the broken necklace. They never mentioned that there were clothes in the washing machine. They never mentioned that, that I take issue, and from reading a bunch of different reports, not just Sandra's case, other cases, cops have a tendency to say a place looks disheveled, and you got to understand, they said, there, I don't know if it's this, I don't remember if they said there was cat hair. I think it's in the Massachusetts State Police report. They mentioned cat hair all around. Well, the cats had been running around for 3 days. They're human. They know their human is in the room and they can't get to their human, and so they're stressed. That tends to make animals shed more. They hadn't been fed in days because obviously Sandra had expired. And there's a difference between messy or lived in and trashed. This is, cluttered. Like, they made it sound like her apartment was like gross. And it probably wasn't the fact. That there was stuff all over the counter. But that's how some people's house, not everybody is a neat freak. Like, if I turned my camera, you guys would be like, what, Missy, you're room is cluttered. You know, I have a huge pile of laundry sitting next to me that I haven't put away. You know, um, I'm a messy person, but there's a difference between messy and, destroyed or cluttered. There's a difference between lived in and like some of the descriptions that were given. And I always I always get annoyed with that because let me give you an example. Brandon Embry, his apartment his bedroom and his bathroom were destroyed. And when I go through his case, remember this, because they approached his mom at the hospital and they asked if Brandon was a messy person. And she said, yes, Brandon is messy. And then later on, she gets the crime scene, or actually, no, when she goes to the crime scene, because when she found him, she didn't go into the building, his apartment. The EMS went into the apartment, went into the apartment. They scooped him up and took him. So she never went into the apartment. When she got to the crime scene, when they went to clean it, she was like, wait a minute, this isn't messy. This is like destroyed. So whenever I hear the police say a place was messy or unkept, it always makes me think twice. Miss Jessica, with my ADHD, I get that. And that's my issue, is I have really, really bad ADHD, and I find comfort in, I don't want to say the chaos, but in the chaos. When things are too neat and too in their place, which is funny because I have OCD, but my OCD is more germs. It's not like things in their place, although my closet is color coded. And I do have some other weird little ticks that I do, but mine is more germs, So I'm like this. There's this weird push and pull with it, but with ADHD, I feel more comfortable with a little bit of chaos around me. When things are too neat, I feel weird. That's just me and my ADHD. Yes, I agree. Don't mess with my piles. Don't mess with my piles. And when I clean, I create bigger piles. And then I have to clean those piles to be able to go to bed. So my room ends up messy again. Barb says, clutter makes me crazy. I'm the opposite. Like when I go into somebody's house and it's like so particular, I'm like, oh, I feel like, oh. I'm not saying I don't want to go in like a roach infested house where there's shit on the floor. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like, messy. Excuse me. So did anybody have any questions about the reports or about that? I wanted to start with the Canton reports because that's basically from day one when she was found. And then we'll go to the Stoughton reports next. The Stoughton reports is going to be probably a 3-parter because it's over 60 pages. So it'll take a little while to get through. And I want to make sure that we really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I was arguing with somebody on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And this person was going back. We were going back and forth, and they were trying to say, mind you, I think I talked about it yesterday. Mind you, this person's was Sparkle McAlbert. So take that with a grain of salt. But they were trying to say that there was no corruption with the Canton part, on the Canton Police's part. And just the fact that how they told her, yes, that's not corruption, but it's ignorance. But how from the second they opened that door, they said it was, oh, it's suicide. And didn't help foster that opinion to keep going on. And the Massachusetts State Police went on, took that and ran. I forgot to send it to myself, but there's a screenshot I want to read you before my phone dies. Give me 1 second to bring it up. Trooper Kevin Tufts, he's the one who he filled out the form to give to the medical examiner. So when they took custody of her body to bring to the medical examiner, they have to fill out a report. And Trooper Kevin Tufts began preparing a standard form from the medical examiner. Next to the field labeled homicide, he filled in no. Next to possible manner of death, he wrote suicide. And next to possible cause of death, intentional self-harm. So that means without investigating at all, before Sandra's body was even taken to the morgue, they were already saying suicide. And they're filling out this form, sending it to the medical examiner. So now the medical examiner gets this form and looks at it and runs from there. I get that forms need to be filled out. But to me, unless you're 100% sure, they shouldn't be saying flat out that's what it is. Because when they walked in that bedroom, they should have thought it was weird that a 23-year-old young woman killed herself prison style. That's not how a 23-year-old young woman would most likely do it. That's something that prisoners do because they have no other options. She had, as you said, there was the redacted, there was a box of medication found in her closet, and there was medication found on her counter. So she had access to medication that she could have took. Why would she take this route? It just made no sense to me. And when I talked to Trooper Fanning, I asked about the phone. Did it stop moving when he left? And he said yes. And then when I read reports saying that the phone was like 12 inches away from her body and it was just out of reach. And I felt like the phone being like that was the last FU to her. That if she had possibly woken up, which he knew she was gone at that point, but if she had woken up, it would have been just out of reach, and she would have been in a panic trying to grab it, and because the ligature was very tight. And that was the other reason why it should have been suspicious. If it was a regular hanging, you could tie it tight, and then I'm trying to say it without saying it. But because it was supposedly tight on both ends, I found it suspicious that she would even be able to do that. So the fact that, and that's the question, was the Canton Police's part in this the Keystone Cops at it again, or were they part of the cover-up? Because we know when it went to the state police, there was a cover-up. So the question is, were the Canton Police part of the cover-up, or were they just the Keystone Cops at it again? And that's a question I would like answered. Barb, Sandra had just seen her therapist on that Friday. Yes, and from an interview that we conducted with somebody else who was in contact with the therapist and was the person who told the therapist about Sandra's death, the therapist said to them, there's no, I don't know if she said fucking, but there's no freaking way that she did this. Sandra had me on speed dial and she knew she could call me at any time, and she did. Like often. Like if she, she knew that she could call her therapist at any time. So, and she had texted Barb right before 9. She was Snapchatting with a friend. This is the girl, as Lank laid out, was constantly on her phone. Her and Matthew had broken up many times, and he had done it through texts and or phone calls. So one of my reasons of being suspicious is, why was he even there that night? With his wife in the hospital getting ready to have the baby, with it being a nor'easter, a foot of snow falling that night, and Sandra not contacting anybody, any of her friends, any of her family, to say that she was upset, and, yes, it was, after 9, but Barb lived on the West Coast at that time. She knew that Barb would probably still be up because there was the time difference. Although she never respected the time difference when it came to the mornings, right, Barb? For you. But the time difference, she knew that Barb would be up. She knew that she could have called Barb. She knew she could have called one of her friends. It was, at that time of night, it's not too late to call somebody, so she knew she could have at least called Barb, but contacting one of her friends if she was so upset. That's another reason why I was very suspicious of that. So, that's the question that we need answered. Was it just the Keystone Cops at it again, or was it more sinister? Was it them also covering up? Because you guys got to understand, Officer Robert Devine, or former Officer Robert Devine, he grew up in Canton. He went to school and graduated same year as Michael Lank. So he had connections to the Canton Police Department. His uncle worked for the Canton Police Department years prior. So, and he was the former police chief, so I'm sure he knew a lot of the higher ups at the Canton Police Department. And clearly he knew a lot of the other officers because, like I said, he graduated with probably some of them. So, like I said, that's a question we need to ask. And we can't discard what happened in Officer O'Keefe's case. Yes, they're two very separate cases, but Officer Lank is in that case too. We need to be suspicious of it. And the fact that they couldn't come together and say that was a strap, that there were different things that the different officers said, that's suspicious. So, excuse me. Barb. She used to reach out to me whenever she wanted or needed to talk. Yeah. That's why it makes no sense. Barb again. Sandra was over the moon about the baby. Yes, Barb knew Sandra. She was her cousin. Is her cousin. So she definitely knew Barb. Barb, she would text me for advice on what to eat and what not to eat all the time. Oh. Oh. Again, we're having our standout on February 1st on Canton's doorstep in its department, the Canton CPD's doorstep. It's very imperative that the people of Canton realize that this happened within their town's boundaries, that the Canton Police Department are the ones who responded to it, that the Canton Police Department couldn't say exactly what she hung herself with because, as we know, he hung her with because none of them agreed. It's ludicrous that 5 officers couldn't agree on this. Like I said, was it just the Keystone Cops? She was isolated. She was, but you got to remember at that time we all were isolated, and that made her even more isolated because she just moved to this apartment by herself. They were always pursuing her, and that's why when she didn't show up to work, they were concerned because, they knew that she would have called out. And which Pat Sanford, which of course tracks with being conversely controlled and abused by a predator. Exactly. She was in COVID lockdown with Darlene. Yeah, but you got to figure this is early 2021. So, yeah, we kind of emerged a little bit from COVID, but we kind of went back in lockdown a little bit. Not full lockdown, as the schools didn't fully lock down, but, there was a reinsurgence of COVID too. So So, does anybody have any questions? Let me scroll back up to make sure I didn't miss any. Suzanne said earlier, they should have observed the future planning in plan effing view, in plain effing view, as well as having just eaten. Yeah, I mean, the washer machine, a load in the washer and the load in the dryer, the phone calls that she made, the planning of somebody to take her cats. That's a big thing. Sandra was planning to have her cats taken for, excuse me, a child that she would have been having months later. She was only about 10 weeks pregnant. So she was already planning for somebody to take her cats for her or watch her cats for her for months later. So that would have been an indication that if she was going to do this, she would have planned for her cats to be taken from somebody. So, all right, Barb, thank you for joining us and answering questions and telling people about Sandra. I'll talk to you later. Feel better. Get better for next week. I have to get better for next week. Excuse me. Bye, Barb. Hearing Pat Sanford, hearing from those who knew Sandra has been extra special. Yeah, I mean, that's that has been, Barb has been a gift for me because she's been right by my side this whole time behind the scenes, and she's helped me immensely to tell Sandra's story and be, I've been the face of it, but she's been, my silent partner and really been by my side the whole time to help get Sandra's story out there and tell what happened to her, and to be able to tell people about her as a person. And, I've been fortunate to have a few friends and family tell me about Sandra so I could, accurately tell people about her. It's hard when you don't know somebody to tell people about them. And I feel like I've gotten to know her through them. There's a lot that still needs to be unlocked. There's some people I would love to speak to, but I've been able to, learn a lot about her from talking to people, and Barb has been like the forefront of that. Like I said, she's been my silent partner in all of this, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. I was thinking about it even more today. I might have mentioned it yesterday. I'm not 100% sure. Being sick, I forget that there's a few different instances that helped Sandra's case get out there. Boston Globe first putting out the article about what happened, the Canton Police Department putting out the report, the case podcast, her family doing the lawsuit, and then my group coming together. I think without all 5 of those, and then the FBI, of course, getting it over the finish line, I think without any of us, it would have been hard, especially getting the public to come along with us and learn about Sandra's case. the public, it took, it took us well over a year to really, really get people to really, really start to listen. But once they did, it really took off. Suzanne, the public needs to know her a whole, caring and energetic person, and not the discarded and not the discard of monster. Yeah, I agree. Miss Jessica, we are a strong community. There can be a ton of hot. Wait, sorry, I gotta lean in because I can't see. There can be a ton of hotlines. Does it say hotlines? If they pick up, which I personally had an issue with. But it's nice to know we have other strong people in this group. I agree. It's not, excuse me, it's not just one person who did this. A lot of people attribute me to a lot. And yes, I've done a lot on this case. I've spoken out so much, and I've talked to so many people, and I've been on so many shows. But it's not just me. It's been like the people who come and stand with me, like Suzanne, and and like even adding Miss Jessica to my team. She's here to moderate and help me with this, to be able to continue telling Sandra's story. It's not just one person. We are, as Jen Root says, her brother used to say, just one. We're all just one, and we all need to come together to make sure that she gets justice. When's the next live stream, if you have it planned? I'm not sure, because I'm I gotta talk to some of the other YouTubers, because we do want to get what's going on, our upcoming stuff, in front of them. I'll do probably one show next week at some point. I haven't figured that out. I will definitely talk to you, Jessica. And I'll see what night you have planned with other YouTubers. I am gonna be on a show on Thursday. It's a newer show to me. Let me look at my messages. It's a show called Locating the Lost, a true crime podcast. I'm going to be on their show on Thursday, so it definitely won't be next Thursday, but I will definitely think about it, Jessica. I'm not sure yet, and maybe Monday. I'm not sure. I'll talk to you. I'll message you after I get off, or I'll message you tomorrow once I think about it a little more. Yeah, so are there any other questions besides Miss Jessica's question? I want to, a shout out to everyone who joined me tonight, and a shout out to all the replay crew. You guys have been awesome, and I love replying to your comments. And make sure you guys go like this. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, because there will be a lot of shows coming up. Like I said, I have some guests that I have planned. I just have to work out when I'm going to talk to them. I appreciate everybody who comes and watches, and I look forward to doing a lot more shows with you guys and interacting with you guys. I appreciate you all coming out and watching me, and learning more about Sandra's case, because there's, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to read the affidavit. I might do the charging document, because the affidavit's a tough one to get through. Like reading the text messages, I don't know if I can read those, because they're pretty disgusting. So yeah, I appreciate everybody coming. If there's no questions, thank you. You guys make it great. You guys asking questions and interacting is the best. And I appreciate you all. And I'm going to head out. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, like Jessica said, comment after the live stream. Go do a comment. It helps my algorithm to get me more views and get more people to see me. My show has been around since 2020, but this is me beginning to do live streams on my channel. Yeah, in February, I'm going to bring Brandon's mom on. We're going to do a show. I'm going to do a show with her. I just have to work out when, and hit the ground running from there. But there's a bunch of stuff that I have planned coming up, and I appreciate you all for joining me tonight. So thank you guys. I am Izzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Have a good night.